Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Because we care for one another's safety, our congregation is gathering online during this long season of coronavirus pandemic. Nevertheless, through the gifts of technology, we continue to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, our souls,
Greetings! My name is Russell Feldhausen, and it is currently my honor to serve as the Vice President of the All Souls Board of Trustees. At our October board meeting, we approved a plan to return to in-person services starting on November 7th. We also set a goal to clearly communicate about this process to the congregation. So, in that spirit, here is some information about our current plan for in-person services. As many of you know, I work in education, so please forgive me as I slip into teacher mode for a bit to share all of this information with you. First, we are tracking the risk level metric for the Kansas City metro area on COVID Act Now as our metric for determining whether it is safe to hold in-person services. That metric includes data from 14 area counties and aggregates many data points together in a single value. If the risk level is low, medium, or high, we will plan on being open for in-person services. However, if the risk value increases to very high or severe, we will immediately cease in-person services. If that happens, we'll send out a notice to everyone. As part of this plan, we are taking several precautions to protect all of our members from unnecessary exposure and risk. This plan is still constantly evolving and we'll be making changes from time to time. In addition, we hope that many of these precautions will be temporary and that we can continue to reduce them as the risk level improves. Some current precautions that we're taking are: masks are required in the building for anyone ages 3 and up. Proof of full vaccination will be required for anyone ages 12 and up. We will follow the current CDC recommendations for determining full vaccination, so if they update those recommendations to include booster shots, we'll aim to comply with that. No food or drink is allowed in the building. We won't be serving coffee or snacks, and we ask you not to bring your own. So, save your coffee run for after service. Anyone who feels ill or has symptoms associated with COVID-19 should plan on staying home. We will have separate, designated spaces for various groups during service. I'll talk more about that later. We will limit entry to the building to just the doors off the parking lot that lead into the lobby and conover. The Facilities Committee has also worked to improve the airflow and filtration in the building to reduce the risk from airborne exposure. And finally, we'll have plenty of masks and hand sanitizer available for anyone who needs it. Of course, there are some reasonable exceptions to these precautions for staff and persons participating from the stage during service. Now for the most important part. We will be requiring reservations to attend in-person Sunday services in Bragg, as well as to attend the in-person religious education or RE classes. This will help us maintain proper social distance and make sure we can get set up with proper seating and spaces for everyone. Again, we hope that this is a temporary restriction that can be relaxed as the risk level improves. Each week, we'll send out a link to an online form for reservations on the Monday prior to an in-person service. That form will allow you to choose from 4 different types of reservations. The first type is assigned seating. Each person or group will have assigned seats in this area that are separated from other groups by 6 feet. This section will also be the furthest away from RE students and unmasked singers on the stage, so it's the best option for anyone who wishes to be a little bit more careful. This section is open to fully vaccinated adults and youth 12 and up. Mingle seating. In this section, persons or groups will be able to move chairs around a bit to form new groups. So, by choosing this option, you indicate that you're okay with sitting next to other fully vaccinated people that are outside of your household. This section is also open to fully vaccinated adults and youth 12 and up. Parents who have regular contact with children under 12 will have their own section in Bragg. Those parents will enter the building through Conover doors with the RE students and should proceed directly to Bragg unless their child needs their presence in Conover. This will make it really easy for RK parents if needed, and it will minimize unnecessary exposure between different sections. Finally, the RE students will sign up by age group. When they arrive through what I've been told will be an amazingly decorated door, they will meet their RE teachers at Conover. At the start of the service, they will proceed as a group to Bragg and be present for the first part of the service. After that, they will follow their RE teachers back to other designated areas in the church for their classes. You'll also have the option to reserve a seat to watch the forum from the building. We'll have a limited number of seats in a room set aside for watching the forum, but you'll still need to bring your own device if you want to ask questions via chat during the forum's discussion. We also understand that reservations will probably fill up, so our form will have a waitlist option that you may choose. Persons on the waitlist will be notified if space becomes available throughout the week, and anyone remaining on the waitlist will be given priority and first opportunity to make a reservation for the following week's service. All of this information will be posted on our website at allsoulskc.org/reservations. If you prefer to make your reservation via phone instead of online, you are welcome to call the church Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., and someone there would be happy to assist you. As part of this process, we'll need to verify full vaccination status for anyone 12 years and older who attends an in-person service. To simplify this process, there are a few ways you can do this. First, we have an online form where you can upload a picture of your vaccination card. Once you've done that, we'll have a record of it and we can pre-print a name tag for your reservation that includes your vaccination status, so you'll effectively have a fast pass to enter the building when you arrive. You can find this online form on our reservations page on our website or in the Flickr for the past several weeks. You may also bring your vaccination card in person or a copy or a picture of it to the church on Sunday and we'll have someone there to verify it. Once we've verified your card once, we'll keep a record of it for future services. If you do plan to bring your card with you, we ask that you arrive before 11 a.m. to give us enough time to get everyone verified before the service begins. Finally, if you'd like to protect your information, we'll also have a board member or other designated person on duty each Sunday that you can show your card to privately, and they'll work on getting you verified. Any visitors who wish to join us are welcome to fill out the online reservation form as well. However, we will also reserve a few spaces for visitors to join us even without reservations. We want to be an open and welcoming church for all those who wish to join us so we can continue to grow. Of course, all visitors must also be masked and show proof of vaccination to enter the building. Finally, we are in need of several volunteers to help us implement all of these precautions. As an incentive, volunteers will be able to attend most of the in-person service each week they are volunteering. If you'd like to volunteer, there's a form on our reservations page on our website you can fill out, or feel free to contact a board member and let us know. We understand that this is very complex, and you may have some questions that we haven't answered yet. We are compiling a list of frequently asked questions to be published on our website soon. So, if you have any questions at all, I invite you to email us at board@allsoulskc.org or contact any board member. We'll also be watching our Facebook page and group and participating in the discussions there. On behalf of the entire All Souls Board of Trustees, we thank you for your patience and support as we take this next step. It is truly a privilege to serve this community.
The creative minds who first conceived the flaming chalice as a logo for the Unitarian Service Committee's work during World War II saw many meanings in the symbol of the flame. One of these was the memory of the martyrs, like the Czech priest Jan Hus and Michael Servetus, burned at the stake for heresy because they would not renounce what their conscience believed about the unity of God and the sacred freedom of the human mind and spirit. May we remember their sacrifice with honor and be faithful in our day to hand on this costly legacy, so that the liberty for which they died may not be lost in the generations that come after ours. Now please tell us in the chat where you are kindling your chalice of dedication this morning. Now let's join together in speaking once again our covenant promises to this community. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Make channels for the streams of love, where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them everyone. But if at any time we seize such channels to provide, the very founts of love
When we think of Halloween, we think of a fun and spooky holiday for those of all ages. The streets are filled with adults and children in all sorts of costumes, terrifying monsters, figures of history, and of course Harley Quinn. You can't even turn a corner without seeing at least 5 Harley Quinns. We attend horror-themed events, and we decorate our houses in anticipation for the endless horde of trick-or-treaters that await their candy. Some prefer to stay indoors and binge on horror movie marathons, and others actively seek haunted houses and mazes becoming extremely popular. Today we aim to uncover the origins of Halloween, how its traditions came to pass, and why the holiday is loved by so many. It is thought that Halloween originated in Celtic Island around 2,000 years ago, with the festival known as Samhain. The festival itself celebrated the divide of the two halves of the year, summer and winter, light and dark. During Samhain, the veils between this world and the other world were at their thinnest, allowing spirits to pass through. Families would invite lost loved ones into their homes to share in their celebrations. And in order to avoid harm from evil spirits, they would wear costumes and masks to disguise themselves. The Druids built large sacred bonfires in order to honor the dead and to protect the living. Animals were sacrificed and the year's harvest was prepared for both the living and the dead, with the food made for the dead ritually shared between those who were less well off. The Christians believed that Samhain was a pagan holiday, and because of the festival's association with death, the Celtic people and Druids were labelled as devil worshippers. In their attempts to wipe out pagan practices, the Christians succeeded in transforming the festival into All Saints' Day, or more commonly known as All Hallows' Day. The night before, traditionally known as Samhain, became All Hallows' Eve, and eventually Halloween. So where have some of these modern-day traditions originated from? We know that dressing up during Halloween originated from the Celts, who dressed up as evil spirits to avoid harm from other evil spirits during Samhain. Although trick-or-treating today mainly consists of children running around on sugar highs collecting as much candy as humanly possible, that wasn't always the case. In medieval Britain, during the All Souls' Day festival, the poor and those in need would beg for food and would often be given salted pastries made from sacred flour and water. These were named soul cakes. In return, they would pray for relatives who had passed away. The young would also dress up in costume, and they would go door to door collecting food and sometimes even money. In exchange, they would sing, recite poetry, and tell jokes. These traditions were eventually revived in 19th century America by the Irish and Scottish migrants in the form we know today as trick or treat. In its early days, the focus was very much on the trick, with pranks and vandalism being commonplace. The town leaders eventually managed to limit the vandalism during Halloween, when they decided to make the holiday center around the young.
So, how's this working then?
First, you make a hole at the top, so you can reach in and scoop all the guts out.
So why exactly do we carve pumpkins? We've come to know them as jack-o'-lanterns, but their origins date back to the 17th century, where their name meant man with a lantern and would often refer to the night's watchman of a town. The tale of Stingy Jack is believed to be where the tradition began. When Jack died, he was denied entry into heaven, and having previously angered the devil, he was also not allowed into hell. Instead, the devil sent Jack into eternal darkness, with only a turnip filled with coal to light his way. The Irish and Scottish people began carving creepy faces into turnips and placing them by their windows in order to scare Stingy Jack and other evil spirits away. When they continued the tradition in America, they found an abundance of pumpkins and decided that these would make a great substitute for turnips. Whether you believe that jack-o'-lanterns keep away evil spirits or not, they have become a staple decoration and symbol of Halloween. Even a game as trivial as bobbing for apples once had more of a significance. In Ireland and Scotland, apple bobbing was used to tell one's fortune as part of the divination game. You would throw an apple peel on the floor, and the shape of the peel would determine the initial of a future lover. There's no argument to the fact that Halloween has changed over the years. It appears to have lost its religious origins, and the superstitions surrounding it play little or no part in today's version of the holiday. Despite how commercialized the holiday has become, it remains one of the most popular. One of the main reasons I enjoy Halloween is because it gives people of all ages the chance to come together for one evening to celebrate the supernatural. We allow imaginations to run wild and embrace creativity. There are no limits or boundaries to whom or what you can become. If you've enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a thumbs up, as it helps promote the video and allows the channel to grow. If there's anything you'd like to discuss or have any ideas for future videos, then please let me know in the comments section. As always, I've been your host, Mythology and Folklore Explained.
These two vital programs have been chugging along during the pandemic, and the church budget supports these programs but expects that we raise $14,000 in each calendar year, in each fiscal year, to support our programs. This money helps pay our section leaders and other guest musicians during our church services, as well as supporting education programs for our children and youth. Music enriches the service and supports the theme every Sunday. The choir section leaders, Sarah LaBar, Shanna Jones, Tom Lancaster, and Darrington Clark, and both our choirs, the All Souls Choir and the Children and Youth Choir, have worked tirelessly to bring us the excellent quality of music we were accustomed to before the pandemic, as we have implemented an online format for the last 18 months. As we begin to open our doors again, it will be more important than ever to have your support for both these programs that enrich the life of our church. We will not be able to sing for a while yet, because singing is one of the highest risk activities for the spread of COVID-19. The aggressive expelling of respiratory droplets produces aerosols that can hang in the air for hours, and that's just not safe for larger groups. We will need to supplement with instrumental musicians, and we will count on our choir section leaders even more than ever to bring their talents to our worship. Your gifts today can ease the financial strain of these extra musicians, and your generosity will help All Souls continue to have the beautiful music we have enjoyed throughout these years in our services. I want to take this opportunity to introduce the newest staff member to All Souls. Dylan Young is our new audiovisual technician who joined us last April. He's here with us today, and he will be with us every Sunday. Thank you for joining me, Dylan. Dylan is our new audiovisual supervisor. Dylan was a huge help immediately upon joining us, as he took on the audiovisual editing during my surgery and recovery last spring. I can't thank him enough for all his help. It really, really got us through a tough time. Thank you, Dylan. Dylan will be with us on Sunday mornings and will be responsible for the audio-visual technical additions to our service. While the building was closed and while we were meeting online, we took that opportunity to improve our assisted listening devices. If you might find an audio assistive listening device useful, when you are here in Bragg, he will be at the desk in the back of the auditorium and will be happy to help. Now, if you remember, please bring your own headphones for one of the receivers, as we will need those help as we get going with those new devices. Also, you may remember we installed a state-of-the-art sound system before the pandemic. We used it for a couple of weeks and then shut down. So we're excited that Dylan will be here to help us learn the full capabilities of that system. Dylan is an accomplished musician, and we are thrilled that he will bring his musical talents to the audiovisual aspects of our services. The ability to listen and mix voices and musical instruments in the room and for you folks online is a true talent indeed. Dylan works for UMKC in the recording studio that is part of the Conservatory of Music and holds a Bachelor of Music in Jazz Studies. Many of you already know Dylan from the forum meetings on Zoom every Sunday. Thank you, Dylan, for joining us here at All Souls, and thank you for providing our offertory music this morning. Be sure to say hello to Dylan when you get a chance as we begin to open the building and gather for Sunday services. Thank you so much for supporting the music and religious education programs here at All Souls. Your generous gifts are greatly appreciated. Please indicate music and RE in the memo line of your check, or choose music and RE in the drop-down menu on our website. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Let's say together the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
From Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The Wendigo is the legendary monster of our Anishinaabe people, the villain of a tale told on freezing nights in the North Woods. You can feel it lurking behind you, a being in the shape of an outsized man, 10 feet tall, with frost-white hair hanging from its shaking body. With arms like tree trunks, feet as big as snowshoes, it travels easily through the blizzards of the hungry time, stalking us. The hideous stench of its carrion breath poisons the clean scent of snow as it pants behind us. Yellow fangs hang from its mouth that is raw where it has chewed off its lips from hunger. Most telling of all, its heart is made of ice. Wendigo stories were told around the fire to scare children into safe behavior, lest this Ojibwe boogeyman make a meal of them, or worse. This monster is no bear or howling wolf, no natural beast. Wendigo are not born, they are made. The Wendigo is a human being who has become a cannibal monster. Its bite will transform victims into cannibals too. Starvation in winter was a reality for our people. They named this time when the snow is too deep and the deer are gone and the caches are empty, the hunger moon. As the monster shrieked on the wind, the Wendigo stories reinforced the taboos against cannibalism when the madness of hunger and isolation rustled at the edge of winter lodges. Succumbing to such a repulsive urge doomed the gnawer of bones to wander as a Wendigo for the rest of time. It is said that Wendigo will never enter the spirit world, pain of need. Its essence, a hunger that will never be sated. The more a Wendigo eats, the more ravenous it becomes. It shrieks with its craving, its mind a torture of unmet want. Consumed by consumption, it lays waste to humankind. But the Wendigo is more than just a mythic monster intended to frighten children. Creation stories offer a glimpse into the worldview of a people, of how they understand themselves, their place in the world, and the ideals to which they aspire. Likewise, the collective fears and deepest values of a people are also seen in the visage of the monsters they create. Born of our fears and our failings, Wendigo is the name for that within us which cares more for its own survival than for anything else. The old teachings recognize that Wendigo nature is in each of us, so the monster was created in stories, that we might learn why we should recoil from the greedy part of ourselves. A Wendigo was a human whose selfishness has overpowered their self-control to the point that satisfaction is no longer possible. In Ojibwe ethics, any overindulgent habit is self-destructive, and self-destruction is Wendigo. The current epidemic of self-destructive practices, addiction to alcohol, drugs, gambling, technology, and more, is a sign that Wendigo is alive and well. The native habitat of the Wendigo is the North Woods, but the range has expanded in the last few centuries. Multinational corporations have spawned a new breed of Wendigo that insatiably devours the earth's resources, not for need, but for greed. The footprints are all around us, once you know what to look for.
From an interview with Gabor Mate, author of In the Realm of the Hungry Ghosts. I see addiction as one of the most misunderstood phenomena in our society. People, including many people who should know better, such as doctors and policymakers, believe it to be a matter of individual choice, or at best, a medical disease. It is both simpler and more complex than that. Addiction, or the capacity to become addicted, is very close to the core of the human experience. That is why almost anything can become addictive, from seemingly healthy activities such as eating or exercising to abusing drugs intended for healing. The issue is not the external target, but our internal relationship to it. Addictions, for the most part, develop in a compulsive attempt to ease one's pain or distress in the world. Given the amount of pain and dissatisfaction that human life engenders, many of us are driven to find solace in external things. The more we suffer, and the earlier in life we suffer, the more we are prone to become addicted. Much of our culture and our economy are based on exploiting people's sense of emptiness and inadequacy, of not being enough as we are. We have the belief that if we do this or acquire that, if we achieve this or attain that, we'll be satisfied. This sense of lack and this belief feed many addictive behaviors, from shopping to eating to workaholism. In many respects, we behave in a driven fashion that differs only in degree from the desperation of the drug addict. When we fail to recognize our own deeply rooted problems, we forgo an opportunity for healing, not only for the extreme addicts, but also for ourselves as individuals and as a culture.
Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and war woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go. Safely through the world we go.
Beware of any creature who can never be satisfied. Beware of that within yourself which can never be satisfied. Beware of the institution or the culture that can never get enough. The Wendigo of Anishinaabe legend are not the only hungry ghosts. Preta is the Sanskrit word for an order of supernatural monsters in Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist traditions, as well as Chinese and South Asian folklore. These creatures have the distended bellies of starvation, as well as impossibly long, slender necks and throats, such that they can only consume the most infinitesimal amounts of either food or liquid, and so are always fiercely hungry and thirsty. Additional myths suggest that everything they try to eat or drink bursts into flame so that they get no benefit from it, or that their obsessive hunger is focused on something disgusting like blood. Much like the Wendigo, pretas are believed to have been false, corrupted, compulsive, selfish, deceitful, jealous, or greedy people in life. They are suffering the karma or ethical consequences of their past actions. Yet it is also true that their condition may arise partly from the failure of their descendants to perform the proper death rituals so that they might pass along into their next incarnation. Tibetan Buddhist as well as Chinese Taoist traditions in countries such as China, Cambodia, Tibet, Thailand, Singapore, Japan, and Malaysia engage in hungry ghost festivals, often in the late autumn season. At this time, communities of monks as well as lay people take pity on the pretas with offerings of food, prayers, and material goods made of paper to attempt to satisfy their particular greed. There is something about this time of year, darkening, uncanny, when the separation of the living from the dead feels less certain, less impermeable. And the question arises, do we welcome the spirits of the dead to be a perceived presence in our living community? Are we that inclusive? And if not, why not? What are we in fact afraid of? Here in North America, we invoke images of monsters and turn our front porches into haunted graveyards and pay money to be scared silly in houses of horror. What for? I think it's a kind of bravado. We dare one another and ourselves to confront our most primal fears. It's partly about the boundary between what is human and not human, or natural and not natural. What is a monster, after all? Essentially, I think it is a being so alien that we can find no connection of kinship to it, that entirely other, who mirrors everything we reject in ourselves and in one another, most particularly our anxiety about death. And yet, as the stuffed animal toy industry can attest, any imagined monster can be domesticated, made cute and fuzzy and sympathetic. Cartoons like the Hotel Transylvania and Monsters Incorporated series or The Addams Family give the iconic monsters of our culture relatable motives and narratives, concerns that we can identify with, so that what were supposed to be their alien features are turned into lovable eccentricities and no longer sources of horror. Give it another couple of decades and even Voldemort will feature as a cute Happy Meal prize. Monsters in their truly fearsome stage tend to violate the boundaries that make the world sensible and manageable to us. Boundaries between human and not human, self and not self, dead and not dead. Those things that have the capacity to absorb us or invade us by taking over our bodies or minds give us the creeps. Things that we had filed in the category of deceased that come back to life mess with our minds in a particularly terror-inducing way. What would it be like, we ask ourselves, cringing, to be treated as if you are dead when you really aren't? What kind of creature would you be if you could no longer observe the minimum ethical standards of your culture? Cannibalism, which violates the boundary between what is human and what is food, stands in that liminal space with its horrifying pragmatism, while the strictly rational mind protests, why not? If you are starving and human flesh is available, why should you withhold yourself? The dead don't know or care. But the identifying of monsters is not a rational task. It is rather a function of emotion, morality, and aesthetics than logic. The primal disgust and fear, which lets us know that we are in the presence of monstrosity, is not an argument. It is a hit of adrenaline. Hunger is one of those primal pressures that can push us up against the fundamental expectations of social order. We tend to be lenient toward the thief who steals food to assuage the urgent need to eat. Because while only a rare few of us in this community have ever experienced true starvation, we have all missed a meal or two from time to time for various reasons, and we can extrapolate to imagine the untold misery of unending hunger. The spiritual wisdom embedded in the cultural imagination that invents hungry ghosts, from India to China to the Western Hemisphere, is threefold. First, it shows us that hunger and want in general is everyone's problem, not just those who directly suffer. Hungry ghosts are malicious and dangerous. Their descent into uncontrolled selfishness and greed puts the entire community at risk. The Wendigo, if it catches a victim, not only grows hungrier itself as it eats, but it also creates a new Wendigo, leaving its victim to suffer and endanger others in turn. Unlike some other monster beings who are confined to various hells and only remind the living of what they might become if they are not diligent themselves, pretas interfere with the safe operation of the whole family and neighborhood. They frighten people with their appearance, inflict pain on the living, and try to prevent the living from satisfying their own reasonable appetites. The veiled threats of trick-or-treaters represent a remnant of the wisdom that it is better to feed those in need than to let their hunger intensify to the point that it threatens the whole social order. Hungry ghosts remind us that we should never be at ease in our individual conscience as long as others around us are suffering. Voluntary compassion and generosity are always preferable to the destruction wreaked by unrelieved misery. And even relatives or ancestors who are not held in great esteem should be properly honored in death so that they may continue on in their karmic journey and not inflict the consequences of their unfortunate choices on their descendants. Unassuaged hunger will haunt everyone. It is better to share and show mercy. Second, the capacity to experience fullness, to know when you have enough, is a gift and a blessing in this life. It is here, in this world of lived perception, that we can learn to be satisfied, to recognize when what we have taken is adequate to our need. Like Jacob Marley visiting Scrooge to warn him about the chain of indifference to his fellow beings that he is forging, hungry ghosts serve as a caution against letting greed and covetousness consume us. For once this life ends, the opportunity to learn to make peace with our desires is over. And if we have not done so, we too will wander eternity forever famished, chewing off our own lips, never able to sate our craving. For this moment, while we are mortal, finite creatures, our needs too are finite and can be filled if we are willing to pay attention. But this recognition is a form of wisdom that has to be cultivated in both body and spirit. A culture like our own that thrives on the incessant demand for more often seeks to teach us the exact opposite, to distract us from the body's wisdom with sugars and spices and hurry and stress, so that we never actually become aware of our fullness or discern the sensation of satisfaction. I think it is not an accident that our own seasonal observance has become a ritual of overindulgence in candy for children, while parents are tormented by folk tales of evil forces secretly poisoning their little ones. We ought not to squander the human potential to grasp the concept of enough. But more profoundly, in 21st century corporate America, we are never allowed to be satisfied with anything, with our achievements, our possessions, our competence, our popularity, our wealth, our power, our safety, our adequacy. The mythology of the hungry ghosts also teaches us that hunger is just the physical manifestation of all our cravings, the analogy that shows in the body what insatiable appetite for anything does to the human heart and spirit. The consequence of unregulated greed, no matter what its object, is not abundance, but eternal emptiness. The Wendigo is, as Gabor Mate observes, the model of addiction, the trap in which the more we consume, the more ravenous we become, until the vicious cycle destroys itself and everything in its path. And this is where the wisdom of the Asian tradition becomes apparent, because the solution to the preta's torment is not actually being fed, but rather being honored with proper death rituals by their relatives. Someone must care enough to make offerings on their behalf and give them a due place in the roll call of ancestors so that they can enter the spiritual world and move forward into their next incarnation. As the present-day former journalist Johann Hari suggests, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is human connection. The thing about hungry ghosts is that they are always solitary. The Wendigo roams the blizzard alone. The preta cut themselves off from human community by their own selfishness and greed. And merciful community is the one thing that can save them from their endless, monstrous hunger. Beware, my dear ones, of the impulse within us that says we can never get enough. On these chill evenings when the veil is thin, you may catch a glimpse of the spirits that refused to be satisfied in life. They do not rest easy in the beyond or in the memories of those they might have loved. These darkening days invite us to contemplate the truth of our own mortality, and there is no amount of anything, from candy to stars in your crown, that can enable us to avoid that daunting reality. But I promise you, it is true that you can never get enough of what you did not need in the first place. And what saves us at last is just knowing that we are not alone. Death grins at us all with its great pumpkin head. Fortunate and wise are those who can grin back and reply, "The joke's on you. It is enough. This life this world, the love we have shared, our compassion for the hurts and hungers we have all known. Abide with me, pleads the classic hymn, in the midst of the fading, falling year, in the face of a culture that exalts greed, in the knowledge that death lies before us all. It is the only answer that saves us from the monsters among us and within us, or ever could. Connection is what finally feeds the ravenous ghosts. It is what the Spirit has been hungry for all along. Abide with me.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, still with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay, in all around I see. Oh, thou who changes not, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where, grave, thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me.
We have such a little moment in this life, these short, lovely days in the dying year, to be together here on this turning blue planet. Let us learn to know the fullness of our hearts when we give ourselves to one another in compassion and generous care. Let us turn from the avarice that can never make us whole to the ties of community for which our human spirits were designed. There shall we find the abundance that saves us, all that we have been seeking, pressed down, shaken together, flowing over.
us share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have, such is the law of love.
We release the flame of this chalice, but we do not extinguish the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until we are indeed together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope it has been a time of renewal and inspiration for us all. We invite you to join us now for informal conversation on Zoom. You can find a link in the chat or on our website homepage. Many grateful thanks to all those who have facilitated our program of virtual services over the past 19 months in response to the COVID pandemic. Anthony Edwards, Dylan Young, Mark Gibbons, Angie Jennings, Andrea Johnson, Russ Feldhausen, as well as our many musicians and readers, all of whom rose to these unprecedented challenges with talent, dedication, and grace. It has been a great adventure, and I am proud to have shared it with all of you. Everyone, please watch for a special email with instructions for how to sign up to attend an upcoming in-person service beginning next Sunday. We look forward to seeing some of you here, as well as gathering online as usual, when we will honor our veterans and consider the meaning of war in today's global reality. Don't forget to register your vaccination verification at the All Souls website, or bring your card with you to the in-person service to get registered. Also, remember to order your Veterans Day Sunday Plus meal next week. Until then, please get your booster shot and yearly flu shot when you can. And everyone, take care, stay safe, and be well this week.